I'm Jennifer Verdam Woodward. I'm the chair of the Huron Chamber of Commerce, Goderich Central North Huron, and I'm also the Director of Finance Canada Operations for Compass Minerals. You'll hear a few comments from me, and then we'll move to His Worship Myles Murdock, Mayor of Goderich. He'll take over the floor with his special guests. Jimmy True, President and CEO of Huron Health Systems. Rob Wood, President, Coast Goderich. And Roland Howe, President, Goderich Port Management Corporation and former Compass Minerals employee. And I want to thank the title sponsor, Compass Minerals, and our major sponsors, BM Ross and Jockey North America, and our media sponsors, Fopop Media, CKNX 920, 101.7 The One, Cool 94.5, Shoreline Classics FM, and 110.1 The Ranch for making this event possible. Many of you come to the Mayor's Luncheon year after year. In fact, the head table probably changes with more frequency than most of the people in this audience. So thank you for your constant interest in the direction our municipal leaders take. They make big decisions that affect us all in terms of land use, subdivision agreements, bylaws, and property taxes. Even if it doesn't fall into their bailiwick of responsibilities, they've had to venture into affordable housing and healthcare initiatives as well. And the work they do is important to maintaining prosperity for the business community and the overall health of the community. And I'm sure Mayor Murdock will fill us in on how these issues are laid out in the new strategic plan. Mayor Murdock taught business education at Goderich District Collegiate Institute for more than 30 years. He knows a lot of GDCI graduates in town, especially those he coached in basketball over a 46-year period. He sat on the AMGH Foundation for the past 12 years as well, and he chaired it for 5 years. Mayor Murdock served 2 terms as councillor on Goderich Town Council before being elected deputy mayor, which meant he also represented the town on Huron County Council. He has represented the town as well on source water protection, public works liaison, and the Community Economic Development Committee. At the county level, he sat on the Huron-Perth Public Health Board, the Finance Committee, and the Water Protection Steering Committee. He was recently appointed to Huron County Immigration Partnership, and he continues to serve Community Futures Huron. He is also a very active community member. Mayor Myles Murdock.
Thank you, Jennifer. Very kind words. I didn't recognize who it was there for a while. I'd like to thank all in attendance for coming out today. It's a good supportive effort for our local Chamber of Commerce, and I really appreciate it. I'd like to welcome a fellow mayor from North Huron, Paul Steffer, for being here today. Paul, much thanks. Oh, way at the back there. I want to thank my team, my wife Kathy, who's sitting over here, and my daughter Alicia for being here today. I want to thank my councillors, John Thompson and Leah Noel, for being here. And I'd like to thank my staff, our CAO, Janice Hallahan, our treasurer, Deanna Hasty, our clerk, Andrea Fisher, our director of ops, Sean Thomas, our environment and climate coordinator, Jessica Feary, and our admin assistant, Amanda Banting. Thank you for being here, guys. There are 3 critical areas of growth in the community, and they all begin with the letter H. One is housing, one is healthcare, and the last one is harbor. And those are 3 very important things for our local community. And today I've been fortunate enough to arrange for 3 key individuals in this area, in the town of Goderich, that can speak to each of these items. First up is going to be Rob Wood, and Rob is president of Coast Goderich. That's the development to the south end of town. He's also a member of the C3 group of companies, which his father started a number of years ago. It's an integrated group of engineering and specialty contracting firms. Successful developments in Kitchener and Guelph led Rob to purchase the Coast property back in 2008 in the town. He is a graduate of the System Design Engineering program at the University of Waterloo, and he's been active in land development industry since then. Rob?
Thank you very much, Mayor Murdock, for having me out here today. I was quizzing him on what he wanted me to talk about, and I did a presentation to council a few months ago and kind of did an overview on how we got to where we are today, which is a little bit interesting. I find it very interesting, but the stuff I get really excited about is what's kind of you're going to see happening out on our site this year and in the coming years, particularly as it pertains to bringing on a different mix of housing than we've been able to up until this point in time. So as was mentioned, we picked up the property in 2008, which is getting on over 15 years ago, located on the south edge of Goderich. Took a long time and a big process to get a boundary adjustment done, and the old town boundary was at what was at that point the north end of our property. Now it's at Deckert Road. So that opened up the whole area for development. And that was an agreement between the town of Goderich, the township of Central Huron, and took many years to negotiate between those two municipalities. Ultimately opened up this area for servicing and development. Got our draft plan approved in 2016. That was after an OMB hearing with the neighboring developer. And that's what you're looking at here. A big part of what we wanted to do in the community was walkability and bringing a green space and bringing the community down to the lake. So the highlighted areas on there are the park system and the trail system that we have been building out over the last few years and will be really accelerating in the next 12 to 18 months. Another big issue that we had to deal with was the stormwater outfall on this site. A lot of it was going to the south towards the Blue Water Beach Gully. That was eroding, and we were having the water flow through our property that was contributing to that. So first thing we had to do is get this big stormwater management pond installed and constructed. What we're looking at there is a absolutely massive piece of pipe that was installed in the fall of 2020. A lot of engineers and a lot of interested onlookers out to see that. That, for reference, is about 10 feet tall in the middle of the pipe, and I think it was 30 meters long, give or take, so well over 100 feet long. It was quite the undertaking moving that down in to the lake. Phase one, we brought in and started selling that through Royal LePage, a local realtor here in 2021, had 38 single-family units. And at that point, we were selling to a mix of local people that were looking for a new place, some people from Kitchener-Waterloo. That was predominantly the mix of the housing. But they were single family, and as everyone's aware, at that time, the housing prices in Goderich were going absolutely haywire, and that was happening across the board in Ontario. So it was about a year and a half ago, and Mike Maxwell actually spoke at this event last year on affordable housing. And he came to us and said, you know, we think there's a real opportunity here in Goderich. It's really needed. That was the same through Glenn Shields, who's on the Economic Development Committee. We're really looking for a broader mix than we were able to bring in our first phase. And so that's kind of a little bit of what we'll talk about next. In 2021, we did some work along the shoreline, and this was part of the vision. When we started out there, it was a fairly sheer bluff at the front of our property, and all along that was going to become public lands. We wanted to turn it over to the town of Goderich in a way that the public could actually access those lands. When we got there, it wouldn't have been particularly safe because it was a fairly sheer drop down to the lake. So we spent about a month in spring of 2021 grading that. And a lot of people probably haven't even seen this, but there is a parkland across the full frontage of our property now that's fully walkable. The lots are, and the houses will be up and behind, but you won't actually be looking into their backyards because we graded that plateau down below. So if anyone hasn't had a chance to go through there and walk along that area, highly encourage everyone to take a look and see what the opportunities are for the water frontage in this area. Also have a connective bioswale that's draining through the property. So this is serving two purposes. It's bringing the stormwater down. And again, this will be a really key part of the trail system that we have running out. So at the end of construction, we're ready to do the seeding and landscaping on it this spring. You'll be able to walk from Highway 21 along the green space, right out along the lake frontage and connect back into Warren Street. So it's something we wanted to not just have the water frontage for the few people that are living there. We really wanted to be able to bring the community down to that. And this is the part that I'm starting to get really excited about. So we have been in the process for about a year and a half now on an affordable housing development. We went in for site plan approval in April of this year and had our kickoff meeting with the town and the agencies actually it was last week. And if things continue to move along and go well, we will see construction start on the first of two 87-unit affordable buildings as early as this fall. We've been talking to a lot of the business community around town and consistently hearing about the need, not just on the affordable side, but just the need for housing for people that are coming in, and the number of businesses that are unable or have great difficulty hiring workers because there's nowhere for them to live that is at a reasonable price is definitely something we've heard. There's going to be a significant number of these that we can make attainable. Probably about a quarter to a third of the 87 units will be geared to people working a service level job and something that is a reasonable amount of their income that they can get into. So this was very exciting to be working with the town and their teams and seeing what we can do to accelerate this development that frankly 18 months ago wasn't on our radar, and this will be a big focus in the next couple of years here up in Goderich. Best case scenario, occupancy would be late 2024 if things continue to move. The long-term care home started construction in January of this year. That was something that was brought forward, and again, we understood the need for the Southbridge had an allocation of 160 beds that they needed a site for, and we again, in great consultation and great thanks to the town and the county, were able to get part of the site rezoned to enable the development of the long-term care home. They broke ground in January, as we said, and they're on about an 18-month timeline before that building will open. So we're really excited to see that work ongoing as we speak. That picture is actually from this morning, so they're really busy out there. And then finally this year, just some other stuff, that park programming, we are looking to accelerate the bioswale that we saw the picture of earlier. We have the cross-section down at the bottom. Ultimately, we have submitted the trail plan that's been approved by the town, and it will be fully landscaped area with a walkable, bikeable trail along that bioswale. And finally, and this is probably less interesting for the people in here, but we are looking at relocating Deckert Road. That is, if you're out on site these days, that's the work that is going on. So just wrapping up, we've been really fortunate to be here. Thank everyone from Goderich. It's been a wonderful community to work with. We've had some tremendous local partners through Royal LePage and Haycoop and the local contractors here. It's been a tremendously welcoming community, and anytime I get a chance to say thank you, I really do appreciate how everyone has treated us up here, and we're really looking forward to some exciting things that we think can be a real boon to Goderich and be here for the long term. So, thank you.
Yes, as you can see, Rob's quite the environmentalist, with the trails as well as with the parkland, and it augurs well for the remainder of the development. I'd also like to comment on the affordable and attainable housing, how much needed it is for here. And lastly, also the long-term care home, how fortunate we are to have a new one coming on. Next up is Jimmy True, and Jimmy is President and CEO of the Huron Health System, which is a combination of Alexander Marine General Hospital and the South Huron Hospital Association. He brings over 20 years of experience in healthcare, showing exceptional ability and leadership in the healthcare and academic sectors. And he's known for his ability to influence stakeholders to achieve continuous process and program improvements. He holds a Bachelor of Science from the University of Western Ontario and an MBA from USC. He is a certified fellow in the Health System Innovation and the Sigma Lean Black Belt, and is passionate about the delivery of high-quality, evidence-based, data-driven care. Jimmy, welcome.
Good afternoon, everyone, and I just wanted to start off by thanking Myles and distinguished speakers at the table as well. And I know we're here to really talk about what we do as a community to help put us on the map. All right, I think the only thing we know for sure is that change is constant and change is there. And so I wanted to really provide an update around the healthcare landscape for most of you here. Some of you might know some of this information and others might not. But really I wanted to focus on health human resources, our aging infrastructure, and of course, ever popular topic, funding. We know that there are pressures across the board, and a lot of the times you hear about physicians and nursing pressures, but it takes a village to run healthcare, especially in a community such as ours. Statistics Canada from 2019 indicated that approximately 4.6 million Canadians are without a family doctor, and in 2022 in Ontario, 15% of that population is without a family physician. And so we know that there are a lot of pressures within the system. And as I'm sure many of you have heard and probably have even experienced, in 2022, there were 145 unplanned ED closures or emergency department closures across the province. The average length of stay for a patient within the emergency department was 20.9 hours, which is an increase of 34% from about 5 years ago. Staffing challenges, of course, have also increased wait times for surgeries. And as of September 2022, there are over 250,000 patients waiting for surgery. And one of the things that we know that's really putting pressure on the system is our shortages of physicians. And this information here that you see on the screen is from CIHI, which is a Canadian Institute of Health Information, and this is from 2020. And not all bad news. You'll see that there is an increase of almost 1% of physicians since that time. And the average age of physicians is around 49. And so they are certainly constantly under pressure. A Canadian Medical Association report in 2022 found that family physicians reported a higher rate of burnout than other medical specialists when you compare the group. And that's one thing when you kind of look at rural healthcare, we really depend on our family physicians for sure, right? And 62% of those family docs said an increased workload has negatively affected their mental health. And so, one of the other things we look at is nursing. And on this graph here, it shows the percentage or the number of nurses employed in the system. And if you look at Q2 of 2015, we had about, I'd say about 6,000 total job vacancies, and about 1,000 of them were longer than 90 days posted without any applicants. And so we know that that's certainly causing a lot of pressure. There are about 68,000 nurses, 68,000 nurses across the province. And by 2028, it is predicted that we need another 33,000 nurses if we want to keep our system going the way it is. And so here you'll see in about Q2 of 2020, so right around the pandemic, this dotted line really shows the number of nurses leaving the system, right? It talks about, the number of job vacancies and the total jobs that have been open longer than 90 days. That dotted line is really that trajectory. And as of Q4 2021, there's probably about 24,000 jobs for nurses, and about 14,000 of them have been open longer than 90 days. And so that's just some of the challenge that we face. And of course, it's not all about physicians and nurses. We have lab techs, we have MRT techs, we have housekeepers, patient registration people. It's a problem across the entire system. And so what can we do? What are some of those ideas that we can do? It's really about focusing on a recruitment and retention initiative and strategy for the county, and especially working with Mayor Murdock and Janice from the town. This is something that we really need to put on our radars. We work closely with the town. We need to highlight the benefits of working within Huron County and Goderich. We've partnered with Gateway Research as well. And last year we hosted a Discovery Healthcare Week, which really is where we kind of probably need to focus. We need to get those students that are in high school right now and turn them on to that healthcare career, and not only focus on that late career or late graduate stage, because at that time I think you've pretty much lost a lot of those graduates because they've already chosen where they want to work. And so it's really about making sure that we focus early on those students. The other thing is really talking about innovation, right? At the hospital, we started an innovation lab, and so there are a lot of bright people in this room. If you have ideas and you want to partner with the hospital on some of these ideas about recruitment and retention, by all means, please reach out to me, and it will help ideas from the staff to develop them and to scale them and to deliver them at abroad across the province. We really want to use AI to leverage some of the technology and some of those mundane tasks that clinicians do on a day-to-day basis. And we want to make sure that when we're using AI, it really benefits everybody. The global AI healthcare market is valued at $2.4 billion, and is projected to grow to $31 billion by 2025. And so that's a lot of growth in that area. AI we can really use to help digest really complex problems and complex data to provide a really good result, draw upon conclusions without direct human input. Some of the things we spend a lot of our time on is really scheduling patients and calling patients back, making sure that they get an appointment 7 days upon discharge. All of those types of things can be handled by AI. Some of the other things that we can do is really, one of the things we know that physicians talk about in terms of burnout is their workflow and how they operate. It takes about, for them to record notes on patients after they've seen a patient, it takes up about 34 to 55% of their time. So that takes away their time from direct patient care just to manage the patient chart. And so we can use AI to help with that process. One of the other things that I wanted to talk about is our aging infrastructure. Right? The hospital in Goderich was built roughly around the 40s. And the Ministry of Health really considers the lifespan of a hospital as 50 years. So we're well past that 50-year stage. As everybody knows, there's lots of projects that are going on right now in the hospital sector. 73 projects have been approved and are in the pipeline to get done, and they're all at various stages. And over the next 10 years, the province wants to invest in 30 hospital builds and over 300 long-term care homes. So when we talk about aging infrastructure, one of the things we really need to do is master plan. And I've talked about this before at our strat plan and some other meetings that I've had. Every hospital across the province needs to have a master plan that is current within the last 10 years. The master plan at the Goderich Hospital was done, last completed in 1992, so it's been a little bit over 10 years. But that's kind of our next process that we want to do. And the end result is really a comprehensive plan that we can take to the ministry to help, in our case, and build a brand new facility, whether it be within the region, in Goderich, or whatever that may be. We're not sure what that looks like right now at the moment, but it is really about capital planning. And these are some of the things that we look at in capital planning. It's an interdependent process. We will certainly reach out to all of our community members, the town, any interested parties who want to provide some information on that. And it's really taking a set of information to help develop that capital process. And capital planning, like I said, is really important because we like to make sure that our resources are used wisely, right? You start with a master plan. You get to an early planning stage, which is where we want to be in 18 months. And you want to, from that early planning stage, you get into a detailed planning process, and the end goal really is to get to stage 3 where the construction starts. And I think in terms of planning for not only our region and the county itself, we all know that funding is certainly a source of contention for the government. And we know that, the government released their spring budget in 2022. What they're thinking is growth rate within the healthcare sector is at 2.5%, but the Office of Accountability is indicating that it's actually 4% growth year over year. And so that means by 2028, we're looking at a $94 billion healthcare budget. And so the way the government has planned it, we'll actually be at a shortfall of $21 billion by 2028. And the province wants to add about 4,500 net new beds to the system. Right now, there's about 2,500 beds that are being occupied by ALC patients or alternative level of care patients. These are the types of patients that don't really need direct medical intervention. They're looking for another place to go, whether it be a long-term care home or back to their own home or some other environment where they can receive care. So that's kind of tying up some of the system itself. And then we also know that the government has a really big focus on adding 30,000 new long-term care beds to the system. And one of the other things that really is going to help the system is really focusing in on home care. We know that the majority of patients that come to our hospitals want to be cared for at home. And so how do we invest in that home care so that people can stay longer in their homes and live longer? And we know that the longevity of people these days has crept up over the past 20 years. And so how do we provide that care closer to home? So that's kind of a quick landscape of healthcare, and I'm sure there'll be questions. It's an easy topic. One of the things we talk about when we talk about funding, and I know there's lots of really successful business people in the room here. As you leave, Kimberly Payne is our executive director of the foundation. She's sitting right at the exit there, so make sure you touch base with her before you leave. So thank you very much.
Thanks, Jimmy. Some scary stuff there, unfortunately, especially in terms of upcoming needs. The recruiting numbers, the issues relating to that, the AAI, and the diagnostics and the scheduling advantages. And it would be nice if we could have a new hospital here, wouldn't it? Third up today is Roland Howe. He's a qualified mine engineer with over 40 years of experience. I've known Roland for a number of years on source water protection. And so this is kind of old hat. He's a graduate of the British coal industry. And he and his wife came to Canada and to Goderich in 1995 to take over the mine, which of course is the largest salt mine in the world. He served as a board member on the Ontario Mining Association and the OMA Energy Committee. He later worked in strategic engineering role with Compass Minerals, delivering on key projects. He's continued in the role of president since 2016 for the Goderich Port Management Corporation. And I would like to introduce Roland Howe. Roland.
Thanks, Mayor Murdock, and thanks for including me in the event today with my fellow top table speakers. Goderich Port Management Corporation is actually what it sounds like. It's an organization that actually runs and operates the Port of Goderich. So the Port of Goderich itself is actually owned by the town. And the town, and together we bought it in 1999 from Transport Canada. It was one of the most unloved ports in the system, making lots of money for the federal government, but actually they were putting no money back in here. They're using that money to build marinas on the west coast. So it was the right thing to do. At the time I was working with Compass Minerals, and we were keen to have it in our own portfolio. It's so important to the business model of the mine. And so at the end of the day, we agreed that the town would own it, and basically the users would operate it. So all the funds that are used in the port come from the port. There's no tax dollars at work in the port. Now, the thing about the Goderich Port is it actually accesses a network called, I think cleverly, the Highway H2O. That's the logo. I mean, it even looks like the highway signs. And that actually links into the network of lakes and rivers and locks, which takes cargo from all around the lakes, and it distributes it around the lakes, but also it goes worldwide. I mean, oftentimes you'll see ships here at P&H that are going to Europe or even Asia. So, it's not an isolated port, it's one that's part of a network that's really important. We're also accredited by an organization called Green Marine. And Green Marine is widely respected as setting standards for port operations. They audit us, which is never pleasant, but we always do well with this. And the fact is that this port's unique in terms of access to the public, the beaches, and the water intake is so close. So, we have to be top performing on the environment in everything we do. So the Green Marine accreditation is important to us. It sets a high standard, and they actually do offer suggestions on the best technologies to apply to maintain that accreditation. I just want to point out this is the Port of Goderich, and not everybody sees it from this angle, perhaps. Even if you're up at the lighthouse, you see the harbor that is the mine and P&H and so forth. But we've extended it recently out to the north, and this port is the only port on the east shore of Lake Huron that's seaway depth. And seaway depth means it can get ships in here that will actually navigate the whole canal system. Right? And the depth of the locks at a place like Welland is what restricts the vessels. But we can fill them to the max here. Now, this is a bit busy, but this is the network. It's all Thunder Bay, Duluth, all the way out the St. Lawrence to the rest of the world. And we're not that far from Europe when you actually get out of the other end of the canals. So moving products to and from the rest of the world is actually pretty easy. One year, we actually brought in a transformer for a wind farm that came from South Korea. I think it was Hyundai brought it in. And rather than it going on a low loader and doing all sorts of crazy stuff with overhead lines from, say, Hamilton or Toronto, brought it in here, and it went up to Dungannon. So you talk about the last mile, I mean, that's a great example of what can be done. So the way I like to look at Goderich, and I thought about this carefully, it's a gateway for Southwest Ontario. It's not a gateway to or from, it's both. So we can enable people locally to actually build their businesses and export worldwide. And that's the reason why we've been expanding. And I mentioned earlier we'd actually put another 4 acres on the back. It was quickly snapped up. And the reason we did that was we'd had opportunities to bring cargoes in the past. People had phoned us up and said, what about gas pipe or windmill parts? We literally had no room because all the space in the port is actually used up by the existing users. And it happened fairly easily, but it took a long time to get there. There was a lot of environmental assessment work done. But as soon as it was built, I mean, we hadn't even paved the dock here. We were seeing ships bringing in aggregate, high-value aggregate from Bruce Mines, and that was Lavis and Tomlinson Group was the actual shipper. And since then, Tomlinson Group have actually leased the whole thing from the town, and they're bringing in, I think last year was 10 ships of stone. So we built it, and I still got no room. Next one. So there is a plan, and I think, the town and the port have a vision that this should be a gateway and a gateway of choice. But a vision without a plan is just a dream. But we have a plan, and this was the full 15 acres that we wanted to build. The orange bit is what we've already built. The rest of it is what we hope to build. So we're in the process of looking for a way to get that done. The federal government has the National Trade Corridor Fund, which this just fits so perfectly into, and they will fund 50% of it. We've got commitment from many of our existing users, significant commitments for the balance, but we're still short. And everything is in place for the National Corridor Fund, except we need to finish the financing. And certainly working closely with the province and talking to different departments in the province, it fits well with their infrastructure plans. And every time we move materials on the lakes, last year this whole system handled like 36 million tons of product. That's close to 900,000 trucks that are not on the roads. And it's not just wear and tear on the roads, but shipping by water is like 10 times less carbon dioxide or carbon footprint than by road. So it's just so many advantages. It's got economics, it's got safety, and it's got the environment. So it really is something that should be done. And I'm confident we'll get there. We've got a little bit more work to do yet. But hopefully this will be in place in 2 to 3 years. And then we'll truly be the gateway. And we were looking to build something else because this will be used up, I'm sure. But I'll answer questions later, and thank you for listening. You're welcome.
Thank you, Roland. That was very informative. I like the idea of being the gateway to southwestern Ontario. I think that's a nice way of looking at it. And I'm excited about the extra 10 acres of land of infill. That gives us even more potential for more revenues on behalf of the town and the community at large. Thanks again. Now it's my turn. Lucky you guys. The essence of my comments actually are going to be the result of what we did yesterday at Town Hall in terms of introducing our strategic plan to the community in its draft form. And now we're awaiting public consult to finish it off. I'd like to also point out that it's a great opportunity or learning experience for all of council and for our senior management team, because this is our roadmap for the next 4 years. It's very important to us to give direction to staff, as well as to have a goal in mind in terms of making decisions. Goal number 1, when we think of infrastructure, everyone usually thinks of roads and sewers, water and buildings, and so do we. And council has made the decision to do a refresh on the downtown core. This includes ground sewer and water and gas, as well as aesthetic upgrades. The underground infrastructure is over 100 years old. Needless to say, this has to change. This council would like to see this project done in time for our bicentennial in 2027. Just as Seaforth, Clinton, Bayfield, and now Kincardine have redone their downtowns, so too we must keep up. This will require a task force to map out a communications and implementation plan, and will need the input of business as well as the townspeople. Secondly, we must make a decision on the outcome of the Memorial Center. We have lived with this albatross for going on 8 years. Over 60% of the populace surveyed would like to retain the facility and upgrade it. The question is, into what? Thirdly, road maintenance and improvements have always been part of our 5- and 10-year infrastructure plans. We need to attend better to our most used roadways in town and repair them more frequently. Further, we must marry the most recent technological techniques to these upgrades to ensure longer lasting and greater control of costs. Goal number 2 for our strategic plan was to develop a more welcoming and caring community. And we've already started this with our volunteer recruitment fair and registry. As well, we continue to engage with the educational system, the elementary and secondary, to ascertain their needs and to engage them in community activities. To address homelessness and some minor inroads into attainable housing, the county and the town have been given the go-ahead for the Gibbon Street project. This is quite exciting news, and this will help support business who are afflicted with some of these concerns. Thirdly, we are reconstituting our committees to enhance community engagement. I know that there's been a number of people that were wondering whether we're going to strike them again, but we in fact are going to be doing that. We would like to get that done within the next month. These would include the municipal and marine heritage, environmental action, community development, airport task force, and communities in bloom. Fourthly, Council unanimously and actively supports both the Pride Parade and the flag recognition. Also, we endorse the YMCA United Way Youth Leadership Program and the Goderich Youth Award. The Goderich Youth Award, I'm going to give a little plug to right now, is an award that recognizes youth who are involved in constructive ways in helping the town in terms of volunteering, fundraising, and helping seniors. The purpose of this program is to promote a positive image of youth and to generate awareness to the valuable contributions that youth make in our community. A nominee must be a resident of the town of Goderich or a dependent of a ratepayer of the town of Goderich between the ages of 12 and 19. All entries must be received by the first Monday in August, and notice of nominations will be sent out via social media. If you know of anyone, please forward their name to Town Hall. Thank you. The last thing with regards to welcoming and caring is we have a multicultural festival in the month of August usually, and it's quite an exciting time, and it's richly deserved, and it's a very welcoming, and I ask everyone to try to attend to it. It's really an enjoyable experience. The third goal at Council is building a strong local economy. We're looking at 3 areas to promote this that affect our current and future ability to compete. The first is healthcare, and we've already heard from Jimmy about some of the issues that they have. But I'm looking at it from another way. We have to promote within the county educational opportunities, such as gateway programs such as the SHARP, which is Skilled Healthcare Attraction and Retention Program. And that's Gwen's baby here. And to provide cooperative learning opportunities in our healthcare venues. We are working with local realtors to assist in finding short-term and long-term lodging for healthcare families and for locums. We are facing extreme competition for healthcare workers, and we have to meet the challenge. We must advocate to the province and to the federal government for greater financial commitment to our port, and lastly, and to our airport, to important modes of transportation. Lastly, we need to recognize and mitigate the increasing challenges of energy costs, and we need to mitigate them. Alternative sources of energy are coming. If we sit back, we'll miss the opportunity to develop an entire industry and create energy sources, new energy sources such as ammonia and hydrogen. Why leave it to Sarnia or Ohio to become the hydrogen hub of the Great Lakes? Goal number 4 is environmental stewardship, and it begins with the renewal of the Environmental Action Committee. Items of interest include the promotion of the growing of native species and pollinating gardens, looking at reducing landfill volume by reducing organic waste, continue to work on greenhouse gas reductions and energy rise reductions and climate control, continued involvement in the Great Lakes and St. Lawrence Cities Initiative and coastal conservation and the Maitland Valley Conservation Authority. And we need to enhance our walkability and likability of our community and within the community. The last goal is to continue to provide good government. I'm very proud of our employees of the town. We are so fortunate. Please be kind to them. We wish to improve our website with ongoing upgrades and enhancements to make it more informative and user-friendly. We'll begin to offer town hall information sessions, and this will include especially youth and seniors. And lastly, we'll achieve workplace wellness, inclusion, and diversity. And I guess it's at this point in time we will take Q&A.